My lightning talk is going to talk about controlled digital lending in Avalon Media System. So first of all, what is controlled digital lending? We just call it CDL because that's a really long name. But the essential thing is just loaning physical items that you own in a digital format. So it's kind of like a lend-like print model. And so there's controlleddigitallending.org, which is kind of like a statement site by a number of institutions that contains a lot of information. It's mostly geared toward text materials. But essentially the sort of principles of it are you need to own a legal copy of the physical item, maintain the own to loan ratio, aka you can't loan out more digital copies than you own of the physical item. And then, of course, you have to make sure that the digital file is secure so it can't be redistributed. So you're really ensuring that only one person at a time has access to it, or however many per physical items you have. So we're working with Michigan State University on a project right now, and they approached us, which kind of led to this controlled digital lending functionality. So Michigan State has a large collection of commercial material that is being digitized by the Internet Archive. And I think that process is still ongoing. And so what we're doing is going to set up an AWS-based install of Avalon Media System, help the ingest process with all those things coming from Internet Archive. And then, of course, the final piece is in implementing that controlled digital lending functionality so that MSU can have this Avalon instance where they have one item to one user access on their Avalon platform. So yeah, just to jump right into the CDL sort of flow in Avalon and how we've implemented it. So here's just an image of just a standard item in Avalon system. This is our dev environment. So once CDL is enabled, it's basically going currently to be turned on for everything. So if you go to an item and you're an authenticated user, you're going to see something like this, where it's going to prompt you, hey, if you want access to this item, you need to borrow it. And there's this borrow item, which will also tell you how many days that this item can be checked out for. So if I click that orange button to borrow the item, the page will refresh, and then the content will display. So now I can actually stream back the media, and then you'll see on the upper right, sort of nestled above the rest of these panels, there's the time remaining, and then a button to return the item whenever a user wants to. So in addition to sort of like those item page changes, there's also this top level navigation category checkouts. So this is very much similar to timelines and playlists, in terms of having this dashboard where you can see in this table all the things that you currently have checked out, be able to return them just by clicking a button in this list, and then click the media object link to go straight to the item. So also tell you, the exact checkout time and return time. So this is just sort of the standard user view. In this next shot, so this is what it would look like as an administrator in the system. So how we currently have designed the CDL functionality is that if you're an admin, you can see all of the checkouts in the system from your dashboard. So in this case, on this dev instance, there's only a couple of items checked out. But you can see one is standard user, which I've represented as Emily, and then our super user archivist one here. So, as the admin, you can go in and return all forcefully. And then there's also this display returned items button that will show you all of the historical checkouts that have happened, not just those that are in the current span of time. So this is enabled right now, sort of in a cascading set. So there are a couple of attributes. One is the system level, settings file, which says, hey, enable or disable this functionality. And currently it's across the application. You can also set a system level lending period. So the lending period is something that then propagates down. So new collections will inherit that lending period. New items created within a collection will inherit the collections lending period. And it's just represented as a day-hour value. So some of the things that we've sort of run across while actually implementing this is, as I mentioned, like initially it's system-wide. So you go into the config file, settings.yaml, and enable or disable. But that, in real world usage, it's probably going to be a mix. And that was sort of like probably, just kind of a mistake of trying to get the lightest weight implementation when really collection level enable, disable makes a lot more sense. And especially for people with large collections, even MSU is like, okay, well, we also want to have other content in here as well. So we're currently working to make it enabled by collection level rather than just having it be locked to a system-wide thing where you need to go to the settings file, change it, and restart the app. We also initially had a live countdown timer on the page, so it would be like ticking down the seconds that you had left, which seemed too distracting. So we removed that and just have hours and minutes, which is much more reasonable. So some other things. So this is, tied to the stream authorization that Avalon does, basically to say, hey, streaming server, this person is legit, please handle the stream. So there's been a lot of work, behind the scenes to make sure that the stream authorization is working. It's expires past the checkout period, and it's really locked to that single user. The other thing we've thought about is notifications, request systems, hold queues. That's out of our current scope right now, although it's certainly something that you see in a lot of CDL implementations. And then the other sort of thing we were pondering is retention of checkout data. So initially, everything here in CDL is stored in the database. And the question was, do we retain that stuff forever? There are a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to, retain information that's that granular on users in the system and sort of keep it forever. So that's one of the sort of last things we're thinking about as we finish off this functionality. How long do we need to retain that, if at all? So the next steps for controlled digital lending, Avalon 7.5 will be our next release. This will include the CDL functionality. And we're currently thinking about when that is going to be released, hopefully in the next month. As I mentioned, enable, disable per collection is sort of like the big last piece of work. So moving that from that system level to being able to just go into the collection and say, yes, I want CDL on this or that. And then testing across the application. We've done testing in the developments, of the features and functionality, but there are a lot of areas in Avalon. So media embeds, our IIIF generation, is this all sort of in line and working as we would like it? There are a lot of little nooks and crannies in Avalon. And then, of course, continuing just to work on the projects in terms of setting up their cloud instance, configuring it for CDL, seeing how we're going to work on that, and what the improvements can be made to our current, Terraform scripting, making sure everything's updated and sort of current with what's going on there. And that's the end of my talk. Thank you.